Guru Nation, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. I wanted to make a quick video on my drive to the site, and it's about triggers in this industry. And I'm not talking about emotional triggers, although we might get emotionally triggered if we don't follow some of these things, but it's activities or events that trigger or are supposed to trigger certain actions. And I'm going to go through some of the most common ones and most important ones as well. This is not all inclusive, but this is kind of like, I would say, the high priority stuff and the stuff that you should probably never ignore. So number one is the protocol amendment. Anytime there is a protocol amendment, you need to read the summary of changes, and you meaning the study coordinator. I'm not saying wait for your PI to do it. Yeah, your PI is supposed to, but you as a study coordinator, you're supposed to do that. You as the site director, you're supposed to know this. And you're supposed to make sure that the changes from the protocol amendment actually get implemented at the site immediately. Whether that requires changing the source documents, that's one thing. Whether that requires, which you're going to have to do, whether that requires, and this will always require, having all the staff sign the protocol training log for the new version of the amendment. That should be instantly going in your head. Okay, I see an amendment. It triggers training log signature for all staff. And then the implementation of all this stuff. So what are you going to actually train people about? Somebody's got to know what changed. I mean, you can't just say, hey, sign this log, the protocol changed. What changed? How are we going to stay compliant? So this is where you got to fix the source docs and whatever else you need to do. Maybe it's the workflow management. You got to fix it. And you got to communicate it and document it, because if it's not documented in research, it didn't happen. Another trigger would be informed consent amendment. As soon as the informed consent amendment occurs, it should trigger the new informed consent, whether it's electronic or paper, to replace the old informed consent. And then you should have alerts at the next study visit for all ongoing patients in the trial. They need to reconsent, which includes a new process of consent, new documentation at that visit. Doesn't matter what visit, if it's visit 9, if it's visit 12, if it's visit 33, you need to document the process of consent for the new informed consent form. You obviously have to obtain the signature from the patient at their next available visit. And if this is missed at a patient's next available visit, it's a deviation. And it's considered a critical deviation, because any consenting deviation is considered a critical safety deviation, which means IRB reportable, which means if it happens more than once on the same study, it should trigger a CAPA plan, an internal review by your site, by your QA person. If you don't have a QA person, guess what? I hate to break it to you, you are the QA person. And you got to do a CAPA plan, corrective action, preventative action. I've done 40-minute videos, by the way, on all these topics. So go check out my playlist, the Fundamentals playlist on my YouTube channel. Another trigger is lab results. As soon as you get a lab result, you need a PI or a sub-I to sign it and assess for CS or NCS immediately. Same thing with an ECG result. Same thing. Another trigger is a serious adverse event. Upon 24 hours of being notified of or becoming aware of the SAE, you need to submit the initial SAE. You need to send it to the IRB. You need to send it to the sponsor. And then the sponsor is going to let you know what to do next. You're going to have to do a follow-up, but essentially you're going to have to collect hospital records or whatever documentation you have. You may not have it all at the initial report because it's only 24 hours later, but you will definitely have it in the follow-up, or you should have it in the follow-up. You don't sit on those SAEs. You don't wait for them to slide and for somebody to tell you to do it. You need to get on it. Most site SOPs require 24 to 48 hours upon the site becoming aware of the SAE to file that initial report, which includes the initial PI causality. Does the PI think it's related to the study drug or not? You need to get the PI to do it. And yeah, that means stalking him or her if you need to. Every coordinator knows this. Another thing is the investigational product. As soon as the IP comes in, it should trigger for the individual at the site who collects it to follow the process, whether it's letting the coordinator know, hey, it's here, and again, you document it or it didn't happen. So in an email, in a text, in what we use, Monday.com, as a workflow. And then the coordinator has to immediately check whether there was a temperature excursion. So they need to take the temp tail out of the shipment, plug it in the computer, get the printout, whether there was temperature excursions or not, and then see if the IP needs to be quarantined or if it can be used. If it can be used, it needs to be stocked away in the IP cabinet where it should be 24/7 temperature monitored. And now all has to be documented, and that should trigger the master IP accountability log as well. So these are some of the major triggers in this industry that you need to prioritize and that you need to have. These actions, like, these are basics for any coordinator. You're going to either learn it the hard way, you're going to learn it through experience, which is the hard way, or you're going to learn it through me watching these YouTubes. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Let me know what I missed. Catch you guys later. Bye-bye.